You guys doing all right? Last week we saw that like probably half a dozen events have either pulled out or said or postponed or stuff like that. Everybody has said like that hasn't canceled, has just said we're monitoring the situation. It's been a big concern. GDC obviously canceled. South by Southwest is canceled. Yeah, dude, Final Combat. Oh man, we gotta talk about that. Man, oh man, what a bummer. Announcement was this: LCQ is not happening anymore. They just invited the 16th player in via points. Everybody else, they said, hey, you know, you guys can't come in, your tickets will be refunded. They also went to the next step. They said like, hey, if you flew out here or if you have hotel expenses or whatever, then we will refund that as well. It sucks, man. There's gonna be a lot of cancellations for stuff this year for sure. Actually, I should probably touch my face less given the current time that we live in, eh? Due to the ongoing concerns with COVID-19, we're sorry to say that we won't be at Final Round 2020. Instead of doing the Brussels and Final Round trailer reveals, they're just gonna be like, all right, well, this is what we're gonna do. We're just gonna play the trailers and show them off. So the county of Santa Clara issued an order to cancel any mass gatherings. I think it's like anything over 1,000 people. Because of this county directive, NCR 2020 is canceled. No NCR. I suspect pretty soon it's gonna be similar to other countries that have already like started doing lockdowns and stuff. Yeah, New York has it bad too. Coachella actually is postponed, right? They expect the amount of growth level in the US to catch up to Italy within 9 days or something. Yeah, lots of universities have closed down or started to do remote lectures and stuff like that. Maybe this is the day of reckoning the Papa warned us about. You think so? Korea is a beast. Have you looked at the rate of testing that they're doing? It's incredible. Dude, they're dunking on COVID. They're twerking on COVID's head in the corner with 3 webs set up as Byakuya. It's pretty impressive how well they're testing everybody. We come in with the daily actually, in fact, health report. I am your news anchor, Stormy Skies. First and foremost on the Daily Corona, the DC, bam! So this is so far Capcom put out a post where they say, hey, this is what's been canceled so far. This is what's been postponed. We'll be monitoring the situation. Brussels Challenge, NorCal Regionals, April Annihilations, Taipei Major canceled. Postponed is Fighter Spirit in Korea and the mix-up in France. Particularly in large groups is, you know, at risk for something like this to happen, which is why, if you guys hadn't heard, E3 canceled. It's weird to think that E3 is not happening. It's the same thing that I think about with South by Southwest not happening. It feels so strange for that event not to occur. TwitchCon in Europe was canceled. Overwatch League has announced that all their matches in March and April will have been canceled. And look at this, February 16th. After 4 months of grinding, we finally finished our new studio and fighting game venue in Seoul. Core Gaming opened this awesome space in Seoul to do, you know, events. Look at how beautiful it is. Literally opened up an event space in February and then immediately has just crushed. Pretty scary stuff, I gotta say. Most of your favorite events cannot afford to cancel themselves. I think this is probably true, particularly in fighting games. So imagine dumping $250,000 to $300,000 into an event that gets canceled and you make none of it back because everybody needs a refund on their registration. Coming up soon, particularly in the US, places will mandate that they close. And that mandated closing will help them a little bit, maybe, depending on what their contract is like. Wash your hands and wash your ass. That's what they say. We were talking yesterday about how COVID cancellations, they were looking like they were going to be a pretty big deal. I turned off the stream and then the NBA suspended the season and, you know, it became a big ass thing. The NHL was suspended. Yeah, they canceled a ton of stuff. Most of the states in the US that have had cases have declared a state of emergency. It's become a global pandemic now officially. We are shifting all currently scheduled 2020 Call of Duty live events to online only competition effective immediately. Yeah, not surprising, I think, right? Disneyland. The closure of Disneyland Park and Disney California Adventure beginning the morning of March 14th.
What happened?
Most monthlies and most tournaments will probably be suspended. And yeah, I suspect this will have a humongous impact on the fighting game ecosystem. It is not unlikely that a pretty large amount of our events, if they don't get canceled in a way that gets them out of paying for how much they have in their contract, will end up not being able to do an event next year. If it's not going to break the bank for you to cancel your registration or whatever, please consider not doing it for some TIOs. There's probably tons of people in fighting games who will be forced to either stop freelancing in fighting games and go find work elsewhere, or just, you know, they're just going to be suffering because of it, right? I'm in a much better position to handle a blow like this than a lot of people, and it's because I stream so much. My guess is I will lose probably like 25% of my income this year from events. That's being reasonable probably too. It could be 30%. For most people, it's probably much worse than that. Think about how many people, are event streamers who now have tons of work just gone. The Spookies and Arts and Funky Peas, Team Chaoses, Beefy Techies, and just think about how many event streamers, Callisto, how many event streamers are in our community that now are like, well, it seems like all the guaranteed events that I normally, stream this year are gone. All the commentators who all their work is gone. Photographers. It's why you saw Robert Paul, one of the greatest photographers in our community. It's like he's a legend, right? He's such an incredible photographer. It was like, hey, if anybody in LA needs headshots, photos of your merch or something like that, hit me up. Like there's a reason freelancers are like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? I mean, he works in FGC and also Overwatch League. Both have had huge cancellations. Bailey had a bit of a meltdown on Twitter yesterday. Today he tweeted this and said, transparent mention. I cannot cancel this event. He's talking about CEO Dreamland. Unless the man bear pig breaks through the wall and does the Kool-Aid man, oh yeah. I cannot cancel this event unless the city or hotel asks me to. Everything in Orlando is open for business. No confirmed cases. Disney is open. If I cancel by my own choice, instant bankruptcy. Please understand my situation. A lot of TOs are in this spot. I'm sure he would want to cancel the event because they're like, well, this seems a little dangerous for everybody. If I could just cancel the event, get my money back, give everybody back a refund, that would be best case scenario, right? But the event expenses were $300,000. The event expenses were, $180,000, $200, whatever it is, right? You just go bankrupt, right? It's just a brutal amount of money to lose as a tournament organizer. How many tournament organizers do you think are in the fighting game community that can afford to cancel an event that costs them $150,000 or $200,000 and then be like, well, guys, we'll just come back next year. We'll do it again. Almost nobody. Hope you like net play. It's a good thing our netcode is good. If the event's not forced to cancel and they have to pay for all of that, it is brutal for the TO, right? They're just sinking a ton of money on this event and there's not much they can do. If you cancel something and you're a super large corporation or something, it's a big hit, but it's like, okay, they'll survive. In our community, these are just grassroots events done by people who have day jobs and like this is just something they do for fun. And maybe they break even on this, $200,000 investment that they do every year. It's really dangerous and scary for our community, I think. It's hard to understate it. I totally understand people in the FGC being like, damn, I'm not going to this event. I want to cancel. If you need that money back, like you should absolutely, do it. If you can afford not to cancel it, you might help save some of these people from being in incredible amounts of debt for trying to run tournaments and just something like this, which is unprecedented and like unpredictable happening. There's no part of our scene that doesn't get hit by this, I think. If right now you're a top player and your team comes back to you and says, hey, we want to negotiate your new contract, and you're like, hey, I need money to live, so here's my contract. They're like, well, there's no events this year. There's no point in having a professional player who travels around the world when you can't travel for 6 months of it, so later. Like, as a player, yeah, it's got to be brutal right now. I suspect it's going to be a lot of people trying to scramble and create content this year if their jobs are largely freelance in fighting game space. I'm going to look into running an online tournament maybe. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start my podcast, and I will focus the start of my podcast on talking to other freelancers and chat with them about what they do, what they work on, where people can support them. I just won't go outside, chat room. You ever think of that? I can't, there's so many things coming up that I can't imagine stay happening and stay uncanceled, including, by the way, probably even events all the way through May or even August. I wouldn't be that surprised if EVO ends up having to get canceled this year. If you don't know what we're talking about here, Glaceon was tweeting about this yesterday and says, do not continue to donate. This could be Michigan Masters cancellation. Again, TOs are just waiting for them to get canceled by whoever, right? The city, the government, whoever is in charge of ordering stuff like this in their case. So this is, I think, what most TOs are hoping, like as a best case scenario, that like the bill is like, we're only owed $2,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is out of pocket. There's an interesting thread here about kind of some of the feelings about being a TO here and stuff, but so many people have been brutal to these tournament organizers. You guys are so greedy for asking for this or that or this. And it's like a lot of these TOs who you're harassing about this kind of stuff are, essentially on the verge of bankrupting themselves if this event doesn't get canceled. I've said so many times, I think TOing or event organizing is the worst job ever. I would never, ever want to do this shit. This shit sucks. It's incredibly expensive to do. it's extremely difficult to do well without people getting pissed about it. And a lot of them, especially the smaller events, don't make money. They like break even on their event. I remember talking to somebody a few years ago about their event. It's one of the largest events in the US. And I remember them telling me for the first time how they had made money and how much money they had made. This huge event, making less than like $5,000 on it. After working on the event for 8 months a year and putting on this huge tournament and making like $3,000 in profit or something. And that was like the year. It was like, we made profit this year. This is fantastic. Mr. Wizard says Evo lost money for 11 years straight. Only 11 straight years? Pff, you TIOs, just bringing in all this money, huh? TIOing sucks. I never want to do it. I feel very bad for all the TIOs out there. That sucks. I'm wishing you the best in this time. This shit is brutal. Final round today, officially canceled in case you guys haven't seen it. I think the good news for Larry in this case is it seems like the cancellation came from above like Gorham, who dropped the big Twitch Prime. Thanks very much. And I saw some people who were like, hey man, fucking, you're only giving back 43% of my money as a refund. How dare you? I mean, if they gave a full refund, they just go super in the red, right? An event like Final Round has already been struggling, right, to make money after they had the big upgrade and they had like the Fallout year after the first year of Street Fighter, which was just unprecedented growth and everything. Like, what are you supposed to do in this kind of case? Today, also, April Annihilation announced that it will be canceling in April as well. 2GG Final Saga. If you guys don't know, 2GG was flying out a ton of international players. They're doing a saga with Square Enix. And they had a bunch of players coming out. They're going to fly out Jotaro and Cherry Berry Mango, and they're going to have Tekken there. I was like super looking forward to this. This is going to be awesome. Canceled. The Cell games were postponed indefinitely over the coronavirus fears, which sucks too, right? Because this is always such a fun international event to watch. Even Cell had to cancel the World Games at this point, right? I mean, if you had people traveling all over the world, what are you even gonna do? Yeah, even a perfect body can't resist corona, right? Like, you can still get it and like, even if Cell doesn't have any effects of it, you can still transfer it to other people. The incubation period's pretty long. Yeah, you know, Knock, I imagine like a lot of people will think, like, look at this and be like, nah, fuck tournament organizers. Like, they could take an extra step and be like, oh wow, running a tournament seems extremely difficult, expensive, not safe, and rather scary. It seems like there are humongous, tremendous downsides, but then they'll just be like, nah, fuck it, these people, why are they asking for my money? TIOs, I don't understand them. I'm like, how could you ever run a tournament? I'm happy they do it, but running a tournament fucking seems like it sucks. They're always like, you know, the community comes first and running it is for the people. Maybe that's nice, I guess, but not me, bro. I couldn't do it. One of the biggest things you get out of it is like the satisfaction of running a dope event and people being like, man, I had an excellent time at your tournament. All these people that they're running these events for are running them out of their homes. They're like, hey, fuck you guys. Fuck you tournament organizers, blah, blah. Like, you know what I mean? It's just absurd. You know, some people have not been paying very much attention to Corona, and they don't realize that it's a legit, you know, it's a legit, pretty dangerous threat to the world. I suspect a lot of people are going to suffer, despite the obvious dangers of the disease itself. I suspect that a lot of tournaments that you know and love will struggle to come back next year. Yeah, assuming it's not an issue next year, which it could be, right? Even if Corona burns through in 2 to 3 months, and lots of people get sick or whatever, and then it starts to slow down a little bit, I suspect that by the time Evo rolls around, a lot of people will be less likely to want to travel anyway, right? Or even go to large gatherings. Even if Corona is less of a threat at that point, you're like, it still might end up being the case. Is it gonna spread to events in May and June and July? Is it gonna is CEO gonna make it? It's like, you don't know, right?